Good morning, everybody. We're just connecting here on Facebook simultaneously with Instagram. Jumbo, fellow adventurers, it's Mike Dooley. Happy Monday. We now are ready for a spiritual tune-up. What happens when your beloved fur baby, pet dog, hamster, gerbil, goldfish, or parrot dies? I feel very able to speak on this, knowing of the intense, searing grief that this can bring about. I think it was one of the most devastating moments and days of my entire 59 years, having lost Baxter about 12 years ago, a dog I adopted from about 6 months old, a sick puppy wandering the streets. Until I had to put him to sleep at a moment's notice, finding a huge tumor within him. And I will never forget the severe anguish I had, even at this stage of my life in my mid 40s, probably 15 years ago. Knowing what I know and have known my entire adult life, that we are all of God, by God, pure God, it offered no remedy to my broken heart. And I remember desperately seeking answers, most tormented by the biblical and scriptural interpretation of what happens to animals when they die. And very clearly, I did a Google search this morning to confirm it. Those staunch literal interpreters of the Bible will tell you that animals do not have a soul like people have, and therefore they do not go to heaven like people go to heaven. Well, there's only heaven. But that tormented me so much. That hurt so much. I felt guilt. I felt remorse. I felt it was the end of the dog's life away from him. He had been by my side day and night, 24/7, with the rare exception of travel back then. He went to my office with me. Everybody knew my dog's name before they knew my name. And I ended it all when he had this soccer ball sized tumor inside of his 55-pound body. And I could not reconcile why the Bible would say that. And if you know me, I am not of a religious inclination whatsoever. I feel highly spiritual, but I do recognize, as I think we all probably do, that there's a lot of gems in the Bible and in all holy books. It's just that some have been hijacked by men with an agenda. But why that phrase, and how was it meant, and did it ever contain some kind of truth to it? And that was the worst of my torment, that my dog was gone to oblivion. I remember a book I read, and this is for those looking for comfort right now, that made such a difference in that 1 week since the passing of my dog 15 years ago. And it was James Van Prague, who's a peer and a friend of mine now. Then I didn't know him, has a book titled Talking to Heaven. And one of the chapters, James Van Prague is a very, very famous medium, well connected, believe you me, to the other side. And there's an entire chapter on sessions he's had with people who were devastated by the loss of an animal, horses and everything. And immediately when you're exposed to truth, it resonates, it brings you around, it takes you to another level. This is the truth that sets you free. It is absolute. It is not wishy-washy. It is not a gray area. And by the 8th day, so 7 days of mourning for me, I was completely healed and have never shed a tear or felt any remorse or sorrow. And in fact, many, many years later, my first Hay House book, The Top 10 Things Dead People Want to Tell You, there's an entire chapter in my book about the passing of our beloved animals. And to summarize what I now know to be true through James, through my own intuition, through what came through me when I wrote that book and that chapter, The Top 10 Things Dead People Want to Tell You. Once a spark of God, always a spark of God. And think not, as I've shared in other tune-ups, that when we die, ultimately, eventually, all things blend back into the mind of God to disappear. Your ego is gone, your personality is gone, your fur babies are gone because they're in the big cloud of God. Baloney. That just hurts to no end. Death would be a misery if such a thing existed. The analogy is so simple, and you'll get this immediately. We're afraid that at this high point of elevation of our soul or our fur babies, when we blend back into God, we disappear as if we were a sugar cube that disappeared into boiling water. It's like, wait a minute. Just because we're going back into God, so to speak, wouldn't mean we disappear. Why would that? Right now, you and your present fur babies are inside the mind of God, and we haven't disappeared. And time is an illusion. So there's before birth and after birth, but it's all a lie. There's an eternal now. And in that eternal now, any spark of God that ever existed exists eternally with personality intact, charm intact, funny characteristics intact. But yet, in that realm, with no Maya, no illusions, no delusions, there's clarity, there's healing, there's health, there's vitality, and there continues to be expansion. So when we pass on, even though we're at another realm of heaven, we're continuing our own journeys. Many of us come back for reincarnation. To my surprise, James Van Praagh endorsed reincarnation for animals. He said it does happen, and your such and such horse is now back in your life as whatever, maybe a horse, I don't know what. And I had a dream after my dog passed, years after it passed, that I was walking through the neighborhood in a strange neighborhood, and I saw my dog, and it was so overjoyed, it ran to me and then stopped. And then it ran to the family at the house where it was hanging out, and then it stopped. And then it ran to me, and he stopped. And he was torn between us in my dream. And when I woke up, it was like, oh, he's come back. He's living another life. He's an integral part of another family. Yet he totally, totally knows and loves me and will forevermore. And the dream was to help me realize the eternal nature of all consciousness, including animals who do not have a soul like us, but who totally live beyond these sacred jungles of time and space, maybe to come back, maybe not, but they're also multidimensional like we are. I do not think my dog was tormented in reality between two loves, me and the new family. It was to show me that he is still alive and growing and filling important roles and still absolutely knows and adores me. I have no doubt for those of you who are presently grieving, who may one day be tempted to grieve, who long ago grieved, your animals are as well and as happy as ever. They worship the ground you walk on. They want for nothing more than for you to resume your life and be happy. They are with you now. They'll be with you when you cross that golden bridge, and they'll be with you for eternity. The mind of God is not so shallow or inept to be able to figure out that as God particles ourselves, with God particles we love, the connection can always be there. If it wouldn't have been, which would never have been the case, God would fix that. There's just perfection. Your greatest desire for how reality should be is exactly how reality is. And when our physical senses show us something to the contrary, it's us and our interpretation and our physical senses that is missing a beat, not reality. So fear not. You are with your loved one. They are with you. They adore you, and they're just rooting for you. And they're saying, please be happy. I'm so happy. I'm so happy. You gave me everything. You took my existence to another level that it could never have gone to before. And for that, they will be eternally indebted to you. Please don't shed a single another tear, unless it's a happy tear, for the loss of your beloved fur babies, feather babies, scaly babies, any kind of babies you have. All is eternal and all is well, and we are all bathed in cascades of love. Thank you for your questions. The last week, including this one, I've been doing tune-ups based on questions posed to me under the video, either in Instagram or Facebook. Uh, and I'll look forward to the next one tomorrow morning. Life is beautiful. You are powerful. Everything's okay. More than okay.